Hey there, welcome to this episode. We're going to do a beginner's guide to step sequencing on the MPC, a really fun way of working. There will be more advanced tutorials coming later throughout the playlist, but for now, I just want to get the beginners up and running. So that's what we're looking at. Step sequencing is another way of just inputting your MIDI information into your sequence. Still uses exactly the same sequence, whatever sequence you're working on, with whatever tracks you have selected. It can be a single sequence, multiple sequences, multiple tracks, but you can use the step sequencer along with that. We could finger drum, as we've seen already, and just put our drums in that way, record them in real time. We could go over to the grid view and draw MIDI notes in, and the step sequencing is just another way of doing that with the MPC, multiple ways to do the same thing. So let's take a look at it. Here, before we move over, we have our sequence. I'm deliberately keeping it to just 1 bar long so that it's really, really simple, and we've got 85 BPM. What I want to show you is that if we move over to the step sequencer, which is this little icon here, we have the same information. It's 1 bar long and 85 BPM. It's the same sequence. We're just looking at it inside of the step sequencer. So if I change something here to 84 BPM and go back, it's changed on the main page. It's all connected. Let's go back to the step sequencer. So how does this work? Well, it works by inputting to these steps along the bottom. There's lots of flexibility and lots of ways that you could use this. We're just going to keep it really basic with 1 bar, and we're going to stick to 16 steps with the time division. It's 16. It's just the basic settings. I don't want to go away from that because then it gets more complex. We'll look at that in other episodes. We use our drum sounds. We have 3 basic drum sounds loaded up inside of our project. If I go to main, you can hear those there. But what you'll notice when we're in the step sequencer, don't hear anything. It starts inputting to those steps, but we've got no idea what it is that we're inputting. So let's take a look at how we fix that. We're going to start with pad select. This is down in the bottom. I press this, allows me to audition those samples so we know what we have currently selected. That's the first port of call. I'm going to say kick drums. Once that is selected, I can come out of here. There's 2 different modes that you're looking at. So this is the pad selection mode, and you can just stay within this menu. So I want to input my kick drum here, 1 here and 1 here. Start playing that back. But if we come out of that menu for a second, the pads on the left-hand side represent the steps, and hopefully you can see these pads lit up, and as this is playing through, it gives you a visual representation of what's happening. You can see it looping around. It's nice and easy to follow. What we'll do, there are a bunch of different parameters you can tweak, but let's just stick with velocity for today. Just be aware that you can add probability, ratchets, that type of stuff. There's lots of things you can get into, but for today, we just want to play around with velocity. Just make it slightly more interesting by changing the volume levels of the kick drums. You'll notice it uses the same color coding scheme that we saw inside of our grid view, whereas red is a strong high velocity, orange for the kind of mid-level, and yellow for the lower velocity, and that actually changes on the pad color as well, which is pretty cool. Now, if we go back to pad select, let's choose the hi-hats, and we're going to put those in across the board like this. And what we'll do, I'm not going to change the velocity just yet. We'll do that in a second because I want to show you some of the other functions. One of them is that you can change the velocity altogether. So you can use this slider to make kind of group changes. And the other one here is flip step. So currently we've got it on sort of the first, the third, the fifth, moving forward. But if you flip the steps, it puts them into the opposite location. Hope that makes sense. You can experiment with that. Some things it sounds great, some things it sounds bloody awful. But let's move it back. And now I am just going to change the velocity for these steps as well. So it's a little bit more interesting for the hi-hats. And we'll just do kind of a random pattern. If we come out of this, you're now going to see the hi-hats. And we're going to go back into pad select, choose the snare drum. We've only got 3 sounds, so let's just put them in. Typical place. But you see, it's very quick to just start putting some pretty nice drum loops together. And of course, these can be way more complex, but we want to add another step. Let's say we want a little ghosty snare here, maybe another one here. Can just adjust the velocity. You could see how you could quickly build that up into something far more interesting. So that's really the basics of it. We don't need to cover too much more. There's just a couple of little things that I want to show you. So down at the bottom, if pad select is off, you'll notice that we can go to the timing correction menu, which we've seen in other videos, a way to change the timing correction. So if you wanted to, let's say this was dialed down at 50, or you wanted to change it to, I don't know, whatever swing amount, let's just crank it up to 75. I can still apply this timing correction even to my step sequences. So if I say all events and do it, we've now got a pretty heavy swing for our drum loop. Just changes that timing, and you've got all of the other settings that you had available from your main page, but you can access them here. What we've also got is the bars. So if we had multiple bars, I would be able to select multiple bars. We've only got one bar, but let's just say, for example, I crank this up to 2, I could then move between those bars. And you'll notice, because we haven't done anything with bar 2, that we can't see anything, but that's how you would select it. Let's move it just back down to 1 bar. Pad select, we already know. And when it comes to our pads here, what you'll notice about this as we play back, it's allowing us to look at the pads, at the various different pads. So it's like using pad select, where you're selecting the individual pad, but as this is playing back, I can move through whatever pads I have available with sounds on them and just take a look at the pads themselves. So just see how that works in real time. This is the hi-hats. This is the kick drums. And that's the snare drums. It's just letting us move through those pads and see that information in real time as it's playing around. So really, for today's episode, that's all I'm going to cover. I think that in a nutshell is step sequencing for beginners. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.